Well, blessings, friends. Welcome back to High Kadosh Ministries, where holiness is a lifestyle and Jesus Christ is truly King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Today is March 14th of the year 2017, and this is One a Day for the Soul. Now, our text this morning is going to be taken out of Colossians chapter 1 and verse 9, which says, "For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that you might be filled with the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding." Now, friends, that is my prayer for you each and every day as I go before the King of all kings, before our Father. I plead with Him to open your eyes that you may see, to open your ears that you may hear, and that you may look beyond the plane of this world and see into a dimension that very few have ever looked into. And that, as our text says, you would be filled with the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Notice what that says, that you would be filled with all spiritual understanding. Not all understanding, not that you would know all things, not that you would be able to explain all things, not that you would be able to rationalize all things, but that you would understand all spiritual things. You see, there is a huge difference between the domain and the dimension that we live in and the domain and the dimension of the kingdom of heaven. And what will one day, if we live according to His will be our eternal home. But friends, I really want to hone in on this idea of spiritual understanding. And I want to couple this with another passage which we find in 2 Timothy and verse 7. And this is talking about apostates. These are people, look for instance in verse 1 of chapter 3. Again, we're in 2 Timothy. "Know that in the last days perilous times shall come." Why will they be perilous? Well, first and foremost, men will be lovers of their own selves. But from that will stem covetousness. Because they love themselves more than others, they covet. It's all about me. They boast. They're proud. They're blasphemers, disobedient to parents, thankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent. So obviously, all of these traits are for the unrighteous person. It signifies a life outside the grace and blessing of God. And look what it says in verse 5. "They will have a form of godliness, but they will deny the power." And then look at verse 7. "They are ever learning, but they are never able to come to the knowledge of the truth." Why? Because the wisdom of this world is foolishness to God. You see, it doesn't matter how learned you are in this life. It doesn't mean that you have a grasp of heavenly things. Just because you have a doctor's degree or a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, it does not matter. The wisdom of this world, intellectual understanding, intellectual comprehension, learning, has nothing to do with spiritual understanding. You see, spiritual understanding looks beyond the tangible, looks beyond the explainable. And that's why I have often said it's like trying to explain the color blue to a blind man. It's impossible. You can't do it. Your eyes must be opened to the truth by the Almighty Himself. And until then, you're walking through this world as blind men. Literally as the walking dead. And so the question would be, what must one do to gain spiritual insight and spiritual wisdom? And we are told that in James chapter 4 and beginning at verse 7. "Submit yourselves therefore to God." That's key number one. Submit. Surrender. Bow low before God. Understand that he is everything and you are nothing. Resist the devil. Turn from your wicked ways, friends. Resist the lure and the enticement and the appetite of this world. Verse 8, draw nigh to God. How do you draw nigh to God? You turn aside from the things of this world, from the entertainments of this world, from the pleasures of this world, and you lose yourself in the things of God, in the reading of His Word, in the ministering of the saints, and in contemplating what you have read, allowing it to read you, becoming very transparent before He who sees all things, becoming very honest before He who knows all things. Run to Him. Lay down everything that would weigh you down and run to Him, friends. And He will draw nigh to you. And as you come into the presence of the Almighty, you begin to see things that you've never seen before. You begin to understand things you've never understood before. You literally begin to understand spiritual things, to see spiritual things. Look at verse 9. Be afflicted and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to heaviness. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. That's the key, friends. Humility. If there's one characteristic we could apply to the enemy that would define him more than any other, it would be that of pride. And the opposite of that is true, friend. Humility is the key characteristic that should define us, because He is God. And as we surrender before Him, we become recipients of all that He offers us. Friends, I fear that there are many among those who would consider themselves to be in the family of God that chase after the knowledge of this world, the wisdom of this world, intellectual understanding. They spend much time in books, but very little in the Bible. This should not be so. Be careful, friends, that you are not so busy that you forget to be still and know that He is God. I love you, friends. Now, as He wills, and until tomorrow, I'll see you on the next video.